Got it. So I've never used Zoom. Is it just going to record on my computer?
Yeah, you should. It'll either record to your computer or to the cloud. I think at the end you'll get a note, a pop-up that gives you the option of where to save it to,
Got
where
it.
to save the file to.
Perfect.
And I'm going to go ahead and record too, just to make sure.
Good idea. Okay, perfect.
Yeah, there, I'm recording too. So we'll record. Okay. Christy, good
Hi.
to see you.
Good to see you too.
Love this technology.
I know.
Cheers. Good morning.
Cheers. Good morning. I'm kind of nervous.
You're nervous?
Yeah.
Oh, I know how to fix that.
Okay.
I know you know how to. Let's just ground ourselves. Very nice. I'm going to read what you wrote to me about what you wanted to talk about. You said, even though I know I should get ready to play, I don't. How do I implement a new habit of making sure I'm ready to play before I sit down? And what kind of things would be good? And then you also wrote, I notice I have a tendency to care a lot what other good players think and also to make bad calls and big putts. So yeah, that's all you want to solve? That's it?
Oh yeah, just why do I care what people think? Especially people who I respect. Can't we just turn that off, delete that?
It's possible. So you're playing 5-10 and taking shots at 10-20. Is that at Commerce?
This was at Bay 101, but actually a lot of the 5-10 games now that I'm playing, they just start a straddle and then it sticks. So basically I am playing 10-20 now too. And yeah, I just noticed that sometimes now in 5-10 or if I'm playing 5-5, I'm just really want to be on my phone, but I focus a little bit better in 10-20. And I just noticed that my focus is all over the place.
Yeah. Well, at least you know that much. I mean, one funny story, this has happened actually more than once when I'm working with a client, we're getting ready to go play. And we play one night and I watch him, he's on his phone all night. And then the next night we're at the podium and I'm like, hey, let me borrow your phone. And I'll just take his phone and put it in my pocket. And then watch him just totally freaking out. But it's huge. It's like a steady drip that we've grown accustomed to, that input, that source. Mm-hmm. It doesn't even matter what it is, right? We're just trained to just go for that phone. And because you already know that that's an issue, have you tried just turning it off or leaving it in your pocket? Is it just impossible?
I have. It's not totally impossible, but then I think I have this excuse where I need to use it every once in a while if I'm doing a social media story, like Instagram or something.
Well, okay. When it comes to the focusing thing, which is huge, and you already know this is a big thing, some changes are going to need to happen, right? And I really just thought of only two main ones that you can implement. One is the phone thing. So it isn't just about being distracted by the phone. What you're doing is training yourself to not react to that impulse, which is even more important than the problems that the phone distraction is costing you in terms of EV, right? The bigger thing is that we're a slave to these impulses. So you have a great opportunity to use the phone impulse as a mindfulness awareness moment and say, okay, there's the impulse. What am I going to do this time? It's the same as cigarette smoking. It's the same as eating. It's the same as all these impulses we get to fill that hole that we suddenly feel that came out of nowhere. Everything was fine a minute before. You're sitting there, you want a pot, everything's beautiful. And now all of a sudden you're dissatisfied. You need more, right? So reacting to that impulse is what you need to work on, more than just the phone itself. So think of the phone as just like a tool for you to practice awareness of these impulses and sometimes not reacting to them. Now, another thing you can do is take better breaks, put more emphasis on your breaks, and then do your phone stuff on break. So then when you have the impulse, you're like, so this is two in one. What I recommend is you never, ever, ever go more than 2 hours without a full round off. Okay, never, no matter whether you're ahead or behind. Okay, And then you can tell yourself, okay, well, I'm going to leave my phone in my pocket, and in half an hour, I'm going to go take a break, and then I'm going to check in with my social media then. And then the thing to do while you're at the table, this is something I didn't start doing until like 5 or 6 years ago, and it really vaulted my game up to another level, which is when I go in, I really only have two ways that I rate my game now, okay? One is what percentage of the hands did I sit up and take a mindful breath before the deal? Okay, so my objective is to do that every hand, and I know that that's something that you already know about yoga and meditation, so we're going to see if we can very easily get some of that to happen at the table. That's on my list. And the other thing is, I try to watch every betting action of every hand, every round, every one, and it's a ridiculous goal, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's impossible, but that's what I try to do, and that's what I recommend that you do. So the way to quote unquote bring focus, more focus to your game, people throw these words around. It's like, what does it mean? Well, what it means is being aware when you're not focused, and then consciously coming back to focus. It isn't something like you just start up in the morning and it sticks with you. Mm-hmm. The only way to stay focused during a poker game is to train diligently for years at the very simple act of losing focus, coming back, losing focus, coming back. So after, I started meditating in 2003. My poker game got really, really good around 04, 05. And then it wasn't until 6 years later that I figured out, well, I need an actual thing that's not like a piece of paper or my breathing. I need something else that I can focus on. And I'm like, oh, what if I actually watch the game? Mm-hmm. What if I use the game itself as my primary focusing thing? You can pick anything, right? So what I do is I try to watch every betting action of every hand, not because I'm going to get great information, which I will, right? It all comes in, but simply because there's nothing else to do. I'm a professional poker player. I'm playing poker. I'm supposed to watch the game. That's what I do, right? So I get distracted. I go to my phone. I watch sports on TV, whatever. Now I have a go-to item. Boom. I just watch the game. That's mm-hmm. it. That is my focus. And as a result, I have all this information coming in consciously and subconsciously. So that when I do get in a pot against, the guy in C3 who I've never met before, I've got a lot of intel on that guy. But that's like a bonus. It's really about the focus is what I'd like you to try, is just watch the game.
Man, I can tell that I've done a lot of work with being in tune with my body, because as I'm hearing you talk, imagining it I already feel like exhausted. Do you know what I mean? Like because I know you're right, and I know I'm gonna do this, and I already know how, like, I don't know, it would feel really, really hard. And would you suggest, like you said, every 2 hours? Like, I'm already thinking like an hour seems like a long time of doing that.
No, 2 hours is the maximum. Oh, you mean you might need a break after an hour if you're doing that focusing?
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, and that's all fine. And, what I'm suggesting is that you change your entire priority structure from when you go to play. You're not going in there to win money. You're not going in there to beat those guys or do anything. You're going in to train
mm-hmm.
at focusing.
Wow. Yeah.
That's your job now. That's what you do. And so if part of that means taking a break every hour, then that's part of your training. So it's a whole new. Now, I'm not even suggesting that you do every session like this, but some sessions you go in there and this is what your objective is. And then the other huge thing that I know you know how to do this, but I don't know how much you're doing it, is posture. I did go on live at the bike to watch you play, and with the rail and the chair and all, it's so easy to sit in loungy sort of ways, but what it does to your mind and body and psyche, and also the effect it has on the opponents, okay, when you're sitting like sit on the edge of your chair. See, there's my chair back. Sit on the edge of your chair with this straight, like that. And I know from meditating that you know how to do that comfortably, right?
Yeah.
For a lot of people, it's not comfortable. Now, how much mindful sitting do you do now at the table?
Not very much.
Well,
Not very
that's
much
great
sometimes.
because you got
No.
a lot of room to improve.
Yes, and I think you're so right, because like I can see in someone else, I'm like, this guy just looks like he's gonna lose, because he's like, after he's been beat up for a little bit or lost a big pot, and he's like leaning back, or he's just kind of like slouched over.
Yeah.
Yeah, I need to.
And you're just going to be sitting there like this. So the time to do this, the time to reset is during the shuffle.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the objective is that every hand, no matter where you were, no matter what your mind or body are doing, when the dealer starts shuffling and dealing, you bring the posture up in one breath. And, I'm able to do that probably 90%, 9 out of 10 hands. I mean, it took years of training to do it, but, and I typically play 1.5 hour sets and then take a half-hour break when I play. So when I play, I'll play 4 sets, 4 90-minute sets in a day. That's my day, 6 hours, right? And I don't even have an A- game anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like I'm like right up to the very last hand of every set of every session for years. I'm super focused. I'm no tilt, no desire to like get another action hand in, like nothing. Now you got to understand, I was the total opposite for decades, right? I mean, this is like pretty amazing, but it's all because of this training of resetting hand after hand after hand. So no matter what happens, I'm just like, sure, there's times I'm upset, I'm tilted, not tilted as in playing bad, but like angry, upset, disappointed, frustrated, whatever. But the resetting dissipates that fast over and over and over. And then by doing it, you get better at it. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's action item. So the 2 action items I'm hoping you go away with is 1, effort toward sitting up before each hand, and then watching the action. Mm-hmm. When you find yourself distracted and you're like, what can I do to bring myself back to the game? Just watch them play. Sounds hard, huh?
I mean, it's like it's common sense. It's like, of course you would watch the game. And I just, it's been really hard to do that. And I think the whole paradigm shift of like, I'm not there to just like sit there and try to win money, like shifting the objective to like, I'm going to pay attention. My objective is to train my ability to focus. This part of my game, like this is what I'm here for.
Right. Yeah. I mean, you've been doing this a long time, and there's stages and there's things that we go through, right? And this stuff could have a big effect on you fairly quickly, mm-hmm. because you already have so much yoga and meditation experience and poker experience. This could really bring it together. Now let's talk a little bit. You mentioned about getting ready to play. You're talking about your pregame?
Yes, because sometimes I notice that, well, actually the Live at the Bike, I don't know which one you watched, but I was kind of like unsettled going in, and watching it back and kind of analyzing it, I could see that that being unsettled just like built on itself. There was one hand that like I didn't pull the trigger, and then that just like I could see myself like snowballing almost, mm-hmm. into what ended up being a terrible, it wasn't terrible, but it was bad given the opponent, just like huge, massive bluff that I could pinpoint. Like I was just like not ready to play.
Yeah. Well, Are you allowed to quit when you're on live at the bike?
I mean, yeah, of course you can quit.
Okay.
I just didn't, I wasn't really aware of that, of all of
Oh,
that
I see.
happening
Oh,
until
afterwards,
I looked back.
right. Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. I mean, that's exactly why these, the only advice I have that I know is guaranteed to make that situation less likely to happen are the things we already talked about.
Mm-hmm.
Resettling, because those are usually happen over time, right? It
Yeah.
builds up. The
Yes.
pain, the anxiety, it builds up. And then, something goes screwy. Well, if it never has a chance to build up, then it can't go anywhere. And the only way to keep that happening is to keep tamping it down, even when everything's fine. See, that's the whole thing. It's like when everything's fine, you got to still sit up and you still got to breathe. It isn't like you're saving that for when you feel bad.
Yeah.
Because if you wait till then, it's too late. It's already built up, right? But to keep it from even happening at all, to stay even keeled the whole time, you got to keep resettling all the time, even when you feel good. That's one of the big pitfalls of meditation. If somebody starts doing it, let's say home practice, and after a month, they're like, wow, this is great. This is the greatest thing ever. I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
And when they asked Buddha himself, supposedly, as the story goes, he taught for 45 years after he had his big enlightenment. He was well known in his time. And one of the standard questions was, well, Buddha, you're so enlightened. Why do you still meditate every day? Right? And he goes, meditation is nourishment. He goes, do you think you can just eat once and never eat again? No, you got to you need it. So my point there is you need to resettle during the game. Now, there are things we could talk about like what to do when you haven't resettled and when the things have bubbled up and there's a problem. But I don't think that's the right place to go with you. Mm-hmm. I think we go right for the core cause, which is just staying in a calm place. I was going to bring up quitting though, in relation to your pregame. And how much thought and effort do you put towards sleep and food and things like that when you know you're going to be playing poker?
I put a lot of effort on that always, actually. That's just how I've always tended to be. Like I'm really good about eating healthy and sleeping.
So you're a good sleeper?
Yes.
Okay, that's good.
I am. I don't play these like super long sessions just because of the game or whatever. I've
good.
Never been kind of like that.
I
like to go to sleep and wake up early.
Pardon me?
I like to go to sleep and wake up early.
Right. So when you quit a session, let's say you're playing a live game and maybe you're up, down, whatever, how do you decide when to quit?
I decide usually just when I'm tired or too tired to play, or the game is bad, or the actual one thing that I think that I'm not good at, which actually I don't know, I'm curious to hear what you say about this, is that when I'm worried that I am not 100% or like I'm like tilted a little bit, I think sometimes I actually give up too fast. Like the game is still really good, but I'm losing a lot, and I just I'm worried that I'll lose more instead of just getting reset or something like that. I think I just I quit because I've seen the pain of my husband who whenever that's the case, he'll play until, forever.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see what you think about that.
Yeah. Anytime you have the urge to quit and it's coming from some sort of need to protect yourself from pain, then you should quit, period. 100% of the time. Okay. Mm-hmm. So like what you gave, and I go through a lot of this in Elements of Poker, these like little formulas we play with ourselves, but let's say that you're stuck at 1,000 and you keep playing with say 500 on the table. Okay. And you know that if you double up, you're going to enjoy, let's say, 2 units of joy. But if you go bust, you're going to suffer 20 units of pain, right? You know what I mean? That's what you were describing. You're like really, really, really afraid to lose more. Then you should quit, period. And the way I put it in Elements of Poker is, away from the table, you can evaluate why that is, what happened, right? Why you hit this sort of like pain wall. But while it's happening, absolutely, you know, it's like, it doesn't make any sense to play when you feel like crap, right? It just doesn't make any sense as a professional player. No, real quick, the idea that the game is good, that is the biggest delusional bullshit story that any poker pro has ever said. I've said that to myself 8 billion times. I've heard it 1 million times. I've debunked it with clients 1 million times. And it's just the addiction monster talking. That's all. And we don't mind the addiction. I mean, the addiction is how we got good at the game in the first place, right? So you got to be addicted and crazy about it to get good. But now we want balance. And to say that you have to keep playing because the game is good, there's lots of ways to debunk this, but let's look at your hourly earn. Let's say you're playing 5-10, and let's say your expected earn is 80 an hour or whatever, right? And you're stuck $1,000, okay? And the game's good, and you're going to only play for a half an hour. So your expected earn during that half hour is $40. That's how much your average earn is. Yet you're staying to play, not to earn $40, because you're stuck and steaming and you're out of control. And so don't use the excuse, the game is good, ever, as a reason to keep playing. The games will always be good. They will always wait for you.
I'm curious because, so, I mean, I totally hear what you're saying, but I think I've always had this like muscle through mindset for anything. So like, I'm curious what you think about, like, well, what if when I'm writing, which is always, it gets hard and I want to quit. And I'm like, this is painful. I don't want to do this anymore. And I keep quitting. Or like when, I don't know, in other situations or doing a project or something, and it gets hard and I'm like in pain about it because it's like, this sucks. Or like, what if people hate it?
Yeah.
How will I ever get it done? Or how will I ever maybe get to a place where I can still play when I'm stuck? You know, yeah.
Well, you will, through consistent break taking and resettling every hand. So, I mean, every poker session is different. There are plenty of times where it's fine to power through. I'm sure you have had many sessions where you're stuck and steaming and kind of unglued, and then a half hour later, you're totally fine. And you grind all the way back, right? So there's all of those things. But what I'm saying is, just in general, when it's bad at the table, that's a good time to quit. You know, it really is.
Yeah.
It isn't just about that you might be playing bad and losing money. It's just about life enjoyment, right? You're not having fun. You could go do something else, come back another day fresh. It just makes common sense.
Yeah.
Now, as far as powering through, like writing projects and pain like that, you know, what I think the thing to do there is, until you figure out how to work on your projects painlessly, you have to power through. You have no choice. But instead of just powering through, ask yourself, dig deeper into like, where is the anxiety really coming from with your writing projects, right? Is it, you know, like you said, is it fear that it's going to suck? Is it, these deadlines I've given myself, it's way too much. I've heard you talk about that, how you just keep piling too much stuff on your life. And then make changes based on those evaluations that you come up with. This is another slow thing, but the objective now needs to be painless writing forever.
Yes.
You know, painless writing for the rest of your life. So continuing what you're doing now will just be more of the same. But just like with poker, if you change your objective at poker is to like, I'm just going to learn how to be a focusing machine. Okay. If you change your objective as a writer to like, I'm going to enjoy writing. I'm going to evaluate what it is I don't like when I don't like something. And I'm going to make little changes, and gradually over time, you can get to where you look forward to sitting down at your projects. But it's like poker. It's like there's 10 different tilters at poker, right? The drunk asshole, losing money, playing bad, unlucky. It's the same way with writing projects. There's so many different things that can cause pain, but you got to evaluate them and break them down. And it's like, oh yeah, I suffer when I overschedule myself, or I suffer when I publish something that I didn't run it by my editor first. Or, just a zillion things. But
yeah, that's really good. That's really good, man. It's just so, it's like this mindfulness of shifting the focus. Like, where's the focus in this like long term and also enjoyable way is really, that makes so much sense. I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. So, you made a good point. It's like if you quit all the time, every time something hurts, where will you go? That's one extreme. The other extreme is you just keep suffering. Nothing ever changes until you die.
Yeah.
Then in between is, okay, this hurts. Why? And what can I do to change this tiny little bit of pain that keeps recurring? Instead of, oh my goodness, my whole writing career is a disaster because it hurts all the time. So, but you have the tools to do this already, to narrow in on some of these things. Let's see what else was the other thing you wrote down. Oh yeah, about other players caring what you think. So how much table talk do you do after the hands in general?
None.
So let me give you an example. So you triple barrel a hand, and a talkity yakety guy, he tanks forever on the turn, and then he tanks forever on the river, and he folds, and he starts, I had you beat, you had 3 queens, blah, blah, blah. Do you look at him? Do you just totally ignore him?
I usually, my go-to is just to head nod and just like, I don't know, that's all I do.
No, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. That's a little, that's friendlier than just the ice.
Yeah.
Which is okay. So,
I just tend to like stew a little, like if I make a mistake, or I shoot on a hand or something, and I'm like, oh God, like they're going to think that I'm such a wuss or something, or like that was so bad. And I'll just sit there. It's just another, I think I just see it as like another way that I'm just like not there. I'm just like.
Right. Yeah. That's a tough one. I've written a lot about pride. Has always been my weakest link in my game. And so I kind of get what you're talking to. I think I fixed it by just playing really well all the time.
Yeah.
And then I know they're going to think I'm a good player.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can see this part too as being like, when I keep bringing myself back, there's no really even time to be stewing if I'm actually paying attention.
Yeah. Well, now, and then here's the next thing. Okay. I know you've done a lot of yoga, and you do sitting meditation too, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, one of the practices is just witnessing the thinking as it goes by. Okay. Yeah. So just do the same thing. If you can step above the thinking just long enough to see it, I call it the wedge of awareness. So the way that would go is, you play a pot that you might have looked a little bit fishy, and you see these guys mumbling over there, and you're like, oh my God, they're talking about how bad I play. Okay. So then the next step is, next hand comes and you're trained. You sit up, breathing in. I'm aware that I'm again thinking about these guys judging me. Mm-hmm. So you label it. I am now thinking about being judged. Mm-hmm. Or I am now thinking about, some issue with my husband. Or I am now thinking about, oh man, I got to get my car fixed. Okay. Every one of a little pain thought shows up. The act of sitting up and breathing gives you a chance to witness it and mm-hmm. say, oh, there I go thinking about that again. There I go thinking about that again. So that's one thing to do with the thoughts themselves. Okay. But then when it comes to, letting go of our ego as poker players and not caring about what people think, I don't know if that's even ever possible.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
just like ease back on it sometimes with awareness, but that's just how we are as people. This is a hugely ego exposing
Mm. Yes.
activity.
Yeah.
It really, really is.
Yes. Yeah. Like it's like don't because I could get lost in just like all of that. What are they thinking? But as soon as it's like I'm really like noticing that I'm
Yeah.
worried about it. Or like I was noticing during that session that I was feeling left out or FOMO about missing out on Coachella because I was playing. And like just like and I started to like, be on my phone and all that and just like I can see how just being like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay. And I just noticed that that's what's happening right now.
Okay. So now here's the two biggies that can undo any type of pain at the table. Okay.
Ooh.
Yeah, these are big.
Oh, I'm
I
ready.
didn't make these up. Gratitude.
Mhm.
I know I've read enough of your stuff to know that you're familiar with using this.
Yeah, but I definitely don't think I use it enough in poker, that's for sure.
Well, but this is the time.
Yeah.
When we're feeling dissatisfied, which is kind of our normal state, with mindfulness, you can choose once you're aware that you're in that state to continue down that path, or be grateful for your health. Be grateful that you're even playing poker. That's the one I use all the time. And it goes together with the next one, which is compassion.
Mm.
Okay. So incredibly, I think the best way to play painless poker is to feel compassion for your opponents. And I'm talking about the spiritual version of compassion, which means we all suffer from the same stuff in the same way. Everybody. We all have this nonstop dialogue in our head that finds faults and says, this is wrong, this is bad, this could be better. Everybody has that, right? And it boils up in different ways. And so if you got a guy at the other end of the table who's basically an asshole, okay, and you, as a professional poker player, you want a tool that will keep him from getting under your skin. The one that is guaranteed to work, if you can do it, is to see him as your brother and a co-inhabitant on this planet. You happen to be in competition right now, which is just a totally made up thing. But at the other level, he's just another human being like you. There's no reason to feel anger or animosity toward anyone when you can adopt this mindset. And that's huge. And then with the gratitude, it'd be good to have a couple in your bag, like ready, things that you know that you can go to and remind yourself, I'm grateful for this. I love my dog, or whatever it is in those moments, right? So those two things, gratitude and compassion.
Yeah.
Normally don't think of compassion as being something that happens at a poker table, but it really is something that happens with any human contact. It just happens to be that you're playing poker.
Yeah.
I know that's a little bit of a stretch.
No. I have never consciously used it, but I did one time. Like I can see it now, but it's good because like I had never practiced this. It was just like I was in so much pain that like I think I just like the live at the bike where I triple barrel bluffed or whatever.
Uh-huh.
The guy, he like slams the table and he's like, yeah, and he's like, oh, you guys suck trying to, and it was like I had never experienced somebody so and he just went on for like the next hour about how we all sucked and he was the best. And like I just tried to keep it, zen, and the only thing I could think of was like, because I wanted to like get him back, I wanted him to lose, and all these things, and
Yeah.
all I could think of was like, I just said, like, you know what? Like, life is really hard. Like, I'm glad you're enjoying this moment. Like, your life can be
Yeah.
really hard, basically, that, like, he's just, like, he's having so much joy right now. And I mean, I think it looks like it. And, like, maybe that's, like, just, like, let him have that because there's going to be times in life where it gets really
Yeah.
shitty and hard.
Yeah.
That's the only thing. But I definitely did not have gratitude that day. I didn't have full compassion because I still had it. But, like, I can see how amazing that is, and like I'm excited to bring that, but I could see how I just like pulled that out because I was in so much pain I didn't know what else to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, the other thing you got to remember is when somebody behaves like that, it's not about you
Right.
at all. I know we hear those words all the time. It's like, how can it not be about me? The guy's looking at me and calling me an asshole. It's
Yeah.
like, well, it's not about you.
I know.
It's his issue. It really isn't. He's going to bubble up and do whatever he does, whether you're there or not.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
It happens to be that you had a hand this time. You know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Whew.
I know a lot of stuff.
This is so good. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna play in LA this weekend, and so I'm excited to implement this, and a little and nervous again. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, we didn't talk about taking shots. I was going to go into bankroll, all that, but maybe we can do that another time.
Yeah, I feel like
I think,
I feel like sometimes I try to be an A student and do all the things at the same time, but I
yeah,
feel like I'm really excited to focus on this right now.
yeah,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah, I think we covered enough stuff.
You
Get you
just
going.
showered with like all the good things, and I'm super pumped actually. Like I'm
Good,
excited.
good. Yeah, and you can, you know, email me or text me, you know, while you're during your sessions or whatever. Yeah, we should do it again. I mean, I'd really like to hear some, you know, get a update on how any of this went.
Yeah, it's interesting because I have avoided. I think I've avoided this focus on focusing for a long time, even though deep down I knew that the one thing I could do to improve my game more than just like studying GTO and everything is like, this is the groundwork that I need, but I've avoided it because I think I knew it was going to be hard.
Yeah. Well, you know, the other thing is like, I use the phrase, there's two ways to improve, from the top up and the bottom up.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So when you're working on your A game and your GTO, that's working on making your A game better. But for most people, there's a gap between the A game and their worst game. And at the same time that this game is getting better, you want your worst game to get better.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's the harder work, less fun, than, you know, but that's what we're working on. But the thing I'm really excited about with you is that you already understand the power of that huge change can happen in tiny steps. And the tiny step we're talking about here is just the act of sitting up before every hand as often as you can think about it and scanning the stacks, which is another thing I do, of focusing techniques, which gives me key information so that my bet sizing is right. So I sit up, scan the stacks, and maybe a little gratefulness. You know, I love playing poker. I'm so fortunate to be here Tuesday afternoon playing poker.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and you train yourself to reset like this before every hand. And you do that for a couple of years and you'll be steady.
Yeah.
Real steady.
Yeah. Oh, well, thank you so much. This was so good. I'm so excited. Which is so strange to say, like, because I think it's because I know how many mistakes and how much money I've cost myself just from not paying attention. So
yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it's so frustrating when there's a big pot, two guys that haven't played a pot all night. They're in a big pot and you miss the whole thing.
Yeah.
And you're like, what happened? What happened?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or then I get in a hand with him and I am faced with a decision and I was like, if I would have just been paying attention to the hand that he played and showed down like 5 hands ago, this would be a lot eeasier, but I wasn't.
Yeah.
So.
See, that's what's so great about using the focusing, because it's money in your pocket and it's mental training. I mean, by just watching the game. Mm-hmm. You know, it seems okay. We can wrap it up.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Well, glad this worked out.
Yay. I'm gonna